Hello everyone, it's Andrew from Andrew's Orchids, and I just want to do a 2-week update on the phrags in the bubbler system. Now this one, like I said, I've had for longer than 2 weeks, but I'm not going to unpot this one because we can see the root tips actually coming through. So this one is really starting to push on nice now. Like I said, I let that one, that's my frag Jersey, which is a Bassier cross. I let that one have its flower spike for about 3 months, and I really shouldn't have. I should have cut it off to let that new growth start pushing. And now that that new growth is starting to push, it's giving me the roots. But I guess the main plant for this is my frag Schlimmy or Schlimmii that I showed you guys from Aquagenera that had, it had roots, but none really viable roots. So I'll unpot that one. And we got 2 weeks in here. We got root tips growing, new growths pushing, more root tips here, more root tips here. So more growths on the inner part of the plant coming. So this one is starting to make progress. These older roots, some are still hard, others they're all still fairly hard. Like this one actually has a tip that's kind of janky, but they're all still pretty hard. Anyways, them will be coming off once these new roots really take off good. So that I'm pleased with. Sorry for the noise, guys, with this. And sorry if this is kind of boring, showing you guys the unpotting and potting up, repotting and potting up. But I just want to show you how that system kind of works to help these types of plants. And in all honesty, I think anyone who keeps orchids in either full water culture or semi-water culture where they keep a lot of moisture in there, I think some kind of an aeration like that would help anything that's sick, just because it does give extra oxygen to the water. And you know, a lot of people talk about calcium and all these other macronutrients, but we tend to forget that hydrogen and oxygen are also, I guess, what you would call macronutrients that these plants need to form the sugars that they use for their food growth. You know, these elements are only for building structures. They're not actual food. So they create their food out of these elements. And that's what sometimes we forget. So plants take in oxygen through the roots and through the leaves. So we have to remember that if they're not getting that, they can't form their sugars. And we think that they get their sugars just from the sunlight, but it's the process in which the chlorophyll turns the sun's energy into the sugars. All right, this one is, I believe, Eric Young. Once again, didn't have too much roots. Let's see what it's doing. All right. If you guys can see, sorry about the light. Root tips branching out everywhere. How's that new growth underneath? That growth underneath the thing is, it's not dead or nothing. It's kind of pushing on. So maybe maybe we'll have another growth coming out through the surface soon. So that one's going. I also noticed the flower spike extending a little bit. So it's taking on nutrients, it's taking on water. It's on the road to being a good, healthy plant. And if you guys want, go back into the history and check out the first unpotting of these and the putting into this mix, and you'll see none of these plants had any growing tips on the roots or any movement really in the roots. And like I said, I just kind of topped this off with some moss just to keep the humidity trapped a little bit more, because I noticed the top part of the soil was drying out and layering. And at this point, I still keep the water level fairly high on the pots, about an inch down from the surface, because the roots have not extended too much. But even still, if the roots got down, they would not suffer, because the water is being oxygenated by the air stones, so they would be happy in it. Now let's go to this Phragmipedium lute's roll key. This one, I was really afraid that I was gonna have to cut the flower off on it, because it just seemed like it was stalling really bad. But as we can see, the flower is actually pushing and it's now opening. Oops, sorry guys. It's pushing and now opening, and there's a bud behind it. I don't know if I want to really let it stay on there, but I kind of wanted to see it, what it was going to look like. So I'll make a decision in a little bit here to see what's going on. Yeah. This seems to be the only plant where the roots are not really doing anything. And that could be because it's focusing its energy on the flower. These roots are still healthy enough, I'll say, to supply the plant with the water, but I don't see any really new growing tips. I'm not sure if this here is a new growth or root tip. It looks like a new growth to me. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to end up cutting this flower spike off prematurely, just so that it can focus some of its energy on the roots. But we'll see what happens. And I might just double check, because there are some phrags that are a little bit more, that like a little bit drier of a mix, I'll say. So this could be one of them, but for the majority of them, they grow either in streams or really moist areas. So they're fairly fine with sitting in water, as long as it's staying fresh and not going stale. I also have a little bit of nutrient in the water with some of the calcium, because these plants do like to have some calcium. A lot of people use oyster shell in their mix sometimes for these, so I make sure they get some calcium. So yeah, lutes might be getting the flower spike chopped. I'd hate to do it, but sometimes you gotta sacrifice those things for the health of the plant. Now this is the Eumelia aureus, which is a Kavakii cross with, I believe, Schlimii. So I've only had this one for about a week now, and we'll see. And it's been in the system too. Let's see what it's doing. It's got some Doesn't really have any root tips. Well, there's a little bit of green happening on these root tips down here. Sorry, guys. Even these ones too have some green happening on them. So maybe they're coming back to life. Them were the only viable roots, really. They're still hard. They're still what's taking care of the plant. But nothing as of right now is really pushing. Looks like a new growth happening right there too in here. So the growths seem to be pushing a little bit. Let me clear away these sheaths so that it has access to put down those roots. But yeah, maybe in a few weeks here I'll start pushing a little bit better. We've kind of had this past week has been kind of cold and dark, so I'm not too surprised that it's not really doing nothing. These things do perform their best when they're getting bright, warm temperatures. Bright light and warm temperatures, so. And then I gotta take you up here a little bit. If you guys can see, I know I'm sorry about the light, but this is Frag longifolium black as night, and its bud is really starting to push now. It should be opening, I'd say, within the day or two. The spike is extending on both of them, so that one is starting to do really well. I also noticed a second new growth coming on one of the fans here, so that's good. Let's see, I'll just unpot it real quick. Let's see what's going on underneath. This is a long sepaled variety. Oops. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah. So inside here, we got roots branching, new tips coming. So that's good. Just want to get rid of some of these dead ones, because they do decay a little bit faster when you have them in this system, the dead stuff. So it's not that bad, but sorry for my arm being kind of in the way here. But it's coming along. So I'll just finish potting this up. Well, anyways, thanks guys for watching. That's the 2-week update on the plants. Come back tomorrow. I'm going to try and post an update on the flasks and also just on some other flowers and plants, what they're doing. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.